In 1893, the Chicago World's Fair drew massive crowds to marvel at the latest human innovations. But just outside the fairgrounds sat a 3-story hotel dubbed the Murder Castle, a building supposedly rigged with acid vats and secret trapdoors. This was the domain of Herman Webster Mudgett, better known as H. Holmes. He is frequently cited as America's first serial killer, carrying a rumored death toll of up to 200 people. Over decades, pop culture and nonfiction books have cemented this massive body count in the public imagination, presenting Holmes as an almost supernatural predator. However, a close look at historical records and modern forensics reveals a glaring problem. The legend is heavily embellished. The true story of H. Holmes reveals a master con artist whose lies were so effective it took over a century to separate the man from the myth. Holmes began his life as Herman Mudgett in an isolated, strict New Hampshire town. His childhood was defined by severe physical abuse. To quiet the children when they cried, his father would regularly hold kerosene-soaked rags over their mouths. At school, the trauma continued. Classmates routinely bullied the young Holmes, eventually forcing him into a local doctor's office where they pressed a human skeleton's hands over his face. Following these incidents, Holmes sought refuge in the nearby forest, where he began dissecting small animals, first reptiles, then rabbits and dogs. It was here his curiosity shifted from the pain of the victim to a technical fascination with anatomy. Through this detachment, the victimized child evolved into a calculating predator who viewed other human beings solely as raw materials to be exploited. He eventually enrolled at the University of Michigan Medical School, where he initiated his criminal career by robbing graves. His motive was purely financial. Holmes would steal cadavers, intentionally disfigure them, and use the bodies to cash out fraudulent life insurance policies. Even the infamous Chicago Murder Castle was constructed as a functional tool to facilitate complex financial scams. Inside, he swindled mistresses out of their fortunes, repeatedly fired construction workers to ensure no one understood the building's true layout, and stripped the flesh from his victims to sell their skeletons to medical schools for profit. This bar chart compares the mythic 200-victim claim against the verified historical record. While the legend suggests massive slaughter, historians can only confirm 9 actual deaths. Holmes manufactured the illusion of a master killer to mask a mundane thief. He was a career fraudster who weaponized death for profit. His run eventually ended in his arrest and trial for the murder of his business associate, Benjamin Pitezel, and Pitezel's children. Always searching for an edge, Holmes fired his attorneys to represent himself, making him the first accused murderer in American history to exercise this constitutional right in court. His courtroom behavior was arrogant and bizarre. At one point, immediately following a grotesque medical description of a corpse, Holmes casually requested a lunch break. But his attempts to manipulate the jury failed. They quickly delivered a guilty verdict, and Holmes was sentenced to death by hanging. The courtroom proved to be the one environment where objective procedural law completely neutralized his charm and manipulation. Before his execution in 1896, Holmes made a paranoid final request: to be buried under heavy cement to prevent his body from being stolen. That unusual burial sparked a rumor that lasted for 120 years. Many believed Holmes pulled off one final con, faking his execution and escaping alive. To settle the escape myth once and for all, the Mudgett family requested a forensic exhumation in 2017. The task fell to forensic anthropologist Samantha Cox at the University of Pennsylvania, who faced a body that had been heavily degraded by the very cement meant to protect it. This diagram shows a cross-section of a human tooth. Because the body's surrounding tissue was too degraded, scientists bypassed it, successfully extracting viable DNA directly from the protected inner pulp chamber. Modern forensic science finally pierced through a century-old layer of physical cement and historical deception to reveal the truth. The extracted DNA proved conclusively that the body in the cement grave was in fact H. Holmes. While he left behind a significant legal footnote as the first murderer to utilize delight to self-represent, his most enduring creation was the myth of the monster. When we examine sensationalized true crime, we have to remain critical of the narrative. The mundane reality of a calculating, abusive fraudster is often far more chilling than the supernatural monsters we invent.